Good evening, everyone. Can y'all hear me? Yep. You hear like a microphone? I can turn it up a little bit. We're so grateful that you joined us. Thank you, Wayne and Christy, for helping get the food out. Thank you, Aaron, for everything you do for Wednesday nights, getting us set up. I think this is a neat venue to be. It's much easier, I can tell you, to speak in this venue than the other one. And so I'm grateful to have this space. Rev Laura Bratton is a friend of mine. She's a colleague. She was grew up at Buncombe Street, but was long gone by the time I got there. But I've heard about her. Heard about her amazing spirit, about her positive attitudes, infectious. And we've driven a number of places for district events, and have gotten to know her a good bit as well. Y'all know I love to ask questions, and half of them are weird. I've asked about her dog's commitment to hearing a sermon every week. That's quite a commitment, and to go to all church functions. I don't know if they covered that in training.
Yeah, no.
But here the same. Laura is a total inspiration to me. I think she's total fun and a lot of fun to be around, and it's my pleasure to have her here tonight.
Thank you. Let us pray. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of all of our hearts be pleasing in your sight, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. So I want you to think about a time either that you are currently going through presently or a time in the past that was incredibly challenging, that was incredibly difficult. It was traumatizing. There was adversity. You weren't sure how you were going to get through it. Think about that time. And as you think about that specific experience, what were the spiritual questions that you asked? Was it, God, are you there? God, do you know what I'm going through? God, do you even care? God, are you going to do anything? Why has this happened? When is it going to be over? What were your specific spiritual questions? As you went through that horrible, traumatic time of adversity, think about those questions that you asked. And as you think about those questions, I want to take a few minutes tonight and share with you the spiritual questions that I asked. The spiritual questions that I asked in an incredibly traumatizing time. So as Joe said, I grew up at Buncombe Street. The first 8 years of life were completely typical, normal. I was healthy. Everything seemed to be going normal and fine. I have one older brother. My mom's a teacher. My dad's in real estate. We were there when the doors were open at Buncombe Street. Basketball, choir, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday church, everywhere in between. If the lights were on, we were there. Typical Southern life. You do football in the fall and beach in the summer. Everything seemed to be going normal. That's the way life was going to be. So we thought. So fast forward to shortly before my 9th birthday, my parents noticed that I was holding books a little bit closer to my face. When I was doing homework at night as a second grader, when I was reading before bed, even watching TV, I wanted to sit a little bit closer. I was just holding everything a little bit closer to my face. So my mom thought, well, no problem. We'll take her to the doctor. We'll get some glasses or contacts. and we'll continue on with our happy little normal lives. So it was the spring, it was about mid-April when we had the first appointment to the eye doctor. So made the appointment. I was excited. I got to miss an entire day of school. Not a half day, an entire day. And if I was really good, I even got like a TCBY or McDonald's or something afterwards. So my mom and I go to the appointment, and I could still vividly see that room. And I was sitting in the chair. My eyes were dilated. I had to read all the letters on the chart. I read them all. I did everything I was supposed to do. And the appointment was almost over. And the doctor just rolled back in his chair, rolled away from me, and looked at my mom and said, "There is a major problem going on with her eyes. And we need to figure out what's going on. She's a perfectly healthy 8-year-old child. I'm going to refer you to a pediatric retina specialist to research this, to do more blood work, more scans, to figure out what's going on." So my mom, being a teacher and it being mid-April, said, "Okay, she's got about 6 more weeks. I've got about 6 more weeks of teaching, so we'll make an appointment for early June, and we'll take care of it during the summer." And the doctor took a big, deep breath and said, "No, this cannot wait 6 weeks. There's a major problem going on in her eyes, in her retina, and I'm referring you today." At this point, it was about 11:30, and so he said, "I'm calling the doctor, and we will work you in during his lunch break. Leave my office and go straight to the retina specialist. There's not time for a lunch break. You're not going home. Go straight there." So we did, and that led to a summer, about 4 or 5 months of doctor's appointments. After doctor's appointments all over the country, my blood was sent all over the world. By the end of August, both veins, in a perfectly healthy 9-year-old, my veins were completely gone. They were not physically able to draw blood out of me anymore because they had taken so much blood. And to try to figure out what is going on. Why were the cells in my retina starting to die? So at the end of that time, at the end of that 4 or 5 months, we ended up working with a doctor in Emory, a pediatric retina specialist. And the difficult news was the diagnosis itself, but the difficult news was they could not give us a timeline. They said to my parents, the cells in her retina are decreasing. They are dying. She will lose her vision. But at what rate? We don't know. It could be 4 months. It could be 4 years. It could be 40 years. We don't know at the rate at which it will decrease. And so we drove home from Atlanta. I started 3rd grade. My brother started 8th grade. My mom went back to a new school year. And obviously it wasn't normal, but we tried to continue with our normal lives with this huge unknown. This huge unknown of when. When will my vision begin to decrease? Thankfully, as a 9-year-old, I couldn't emotionally grasp what was happening or the news or the reality. So the next several years, my eyes pretty much stayed the same. I still did church basketball. I still was involved in dance and brownies and all the same normal activities. Then fast forward to middle school. I'm sitting in geography class, and we're taking notes off the board, and I'm doing fine. And I look up at the board, and it's just all black blob. It's just all black blurry ink marks on the board. So I get up from my desk, I walk up to the board, and I literally have my face on the board, and it was blurry. So I took a few steps back, it was blurry. I went side to side, it was blurry. No matter what I did, I couldn't see those letters on the board. It was in that moment, and that day, that I grasped, this is real. I am changing, and I don't like it. I've got to completely adapt and change my current way of living. I go from being, quote, normal in the popular group with the popular girls to she's the blind one. She's the disabled one. Other. Invisible. I couldn't read my homework anymore. I couldn't take tests by myself because I couldn't see it to read them. I couldn't read my textbooks, open my locker. All those simple day-to-day tasks, all of a sudden, I could not do. So for me, the spiritual question, the prayer, the spiritual question was, God, I can't. God, this is too hard. I don't like it. I can't. For me, I didn't instantly jump into the why. It was the I can't. I don't want to do this. I can't. That was my prayer. That was my prayer during the day. That was my prayer crying myself to sleep at night. I just want to let you know that I can't. I can't. That was all I could think to say and feel and pray and express, which obviously led to an intense time of anxiety, of depression, of just not being able to emotionally function as I went through that grieving stages, the denial, the anger, working through all those stages. So fast forward a few more years, I'm a sophomore in high school, going to youth group, going to church on Sundays, continuing to do that, to go through the motions of going to church like I grew up doing, still telling God, I can't. So one night, I was at rock bottom, so I decided to call a mentor who was part of the youth group. I'd known her almost my whole life, and I knew she was going to have the answer to a question that I had. So I pick up the phone. It's a Sunday night, about 9 o'clock, and at this time she had 3 small kids. Well, I know calling a mom on a Sunday night with 3 small kids is not the best time to call, but I didn't care. I was at rock bottom. I needed help, so I called her. So when she answered, I said, Martha, I have a question. And she said, okay. And I said, Martha. And at this point, my anger turns to absolute just sobbing. And I'm sobbing. I couldn't even get my words out. And when I could finally get my words out, I said, Martha, I don't get it. And she said, you don't get what? And I said, there are all these stories in the Bible of God, of Christ, of Jesus healing the blind man. He puts mud on their eyes. They see trees. He prays again. Then he prays a third time. Then they can see. I just don't get it. Why am I not like the guy in the Bible? And then I said, more importantly, when's God going to heal me? Martha, I want to know kind of when God's going to heal me and this is going to be over and I can just hop back in my normal life and keep going like this just was a bad couple years. When's God going to heal me? Because Martha knew everything spiritually. She had every answer. So I knew she was going to have the perfect answer. And in my head, I was secretly hoping that she was going to say, well, I'm glad you asked, because today in church at 11:03 during the first hymn, we were sitting up. God told me, Laura will be healed next month. I wanted some definitive answer. So when I finally stopped talking and sobbing, she started to sob. I thought, well, this isn't going as planned. So through her tears, she said, Laura, I don't know. I've been praying for you. You've been on the church prayer chain. You've been on prayer chains all over the world. I ask those same questions. I don't know why God isn't healing you like there's people in the Bible. I don't know when God's going to heal you. So again, by this point, I'm angry because she's not giving me my answer. And then she says, Laura, what I do know, what I can tell you, the answer that I can give you is that my love, my support, my prayers are with you each and every day, period. If it is forever, if it ends tomorrow, there is no timeline on my love, my support, my prayers. Then she goes on to say, Laura, it's not just me. Think about your parents. Think about your parents that have done all in their power to research, to advocate for you, to empower you. Think about your brother who tells you on a day-to-day basis, quitting is not in your vocabulary. Think about your church family who is continuing to love you as the child, the beloved child of God that you are. Think about all of your extended family that is treating you like the cousin, the niece, the family member that you are and will always be. I don't know if you will be physically healed, but what I know is that God's love through your parents, through your brother, through your family, through your church community, that love is always with you and will always be with you. And that love is enough. So when Martha said those words, I wasn't happy. That wasn't the answer I wanted. She didn't end my pain and suffering in that moment. She didn't give me a date to look forward to. I didn't receive those words. I heard them. I didn't listen. It wasn't until days and weeks and months and even years later that I realized the power of those words. My real spiritual question was not, God, I can't, or God, when are you going to heal me? It was, God, are you there? Are you going to be there in this suffering? Are you going to be there in this pain? Are you going to be there as I'm treated like an invisible person? Are you there? And Martha perfectly answered that question. She gave me the real answer to my spiritual question. She gave me an answer that was incredibly better than a date and a time of being physically healed. What she gave me is that reminder, that promise that no matter what I go through, whether I'm healed at that instant or never, the spiritual healing, the spiritual love, the presence of God, the presence of Christ, that is always there. That is always with us, always tangible, regardless of the situation. And like I said, that took days and weeks and months and years to digest and to receive. But as I have gone forward, as I've worked through the grief process, as I've been able to heal spiritually and emotionally and mentally, that was what I needed. That's all I needed, to know that God's love is there. I am deeply grateful for God's love that shows up in those moments like Martha, when I am at rock bottom, to say, you know what? You have the support around you need, and that is enough. I'm greatly grateful for those moments as well when I have worked through the grieving process and back on my feet and moving forward, and God continues to remind me, I am with you. So fast forward to the year after seminary. I'm doing my hospital chaplain residency at the Cleveland Clinic. And I had my first guide dog that was also a female black lab. And I go to see a patient, and this is towards the end of the residency. So this is about a year into the residency. And I go to see this patient who just recovered from surgery, but was still incredibly anxious. So we have about a 15-minute conversation. It wasn't long. It wasn't very deep. And at the end of the conversation, she says, wow, chaplain, I am so peaceful. I'm calm, I'm peaceful, I feel so much better. So of course, what am I thinking in my head? Wow, look at me. I've worked through the grieving process, I'm back on my feet, I'm Princeton educated, I'm now at the Cleveland Clinic, go me. And her next words were, your dog did everything. And my response was, I'm thankful I'm attached to the leash. So that gracious reminder that God's love is with us at rock bottom, and God's love is there working through my guide dog. I did nothing in that situation but show up. And the fact that I had a guide dog was exactly what she needed in that moment. It was the dog that brought the peace, the calmness, the contentment. God's love was there and was enough. So as I asked you to think about your situation, what was that difficult time? What is that difficult time now? What are the spiritual questions that you are asking? And what have been your Martha moments? What have been those moments when someone has come alongside you? Someone has said something to you, has been present with you, has given you that scripture, has offered that prayer, has done that generous act that was exactly what you needed to remind you of God's love. So I want us to take a few moments and share around your table. Share with each other as you are in community together, as you come together every Sunday and once a month on Wednesday nights as the body of Christ. Share with one another. What have been your Martha moments? What have been those moments where you have been overwhelmed by God showing up and by God's love being present and God's love being enough? So take a few moments, share around your table, and then we'll come back together and close as a large group.
Luke's coming over to stand with me.
Okay. Hey, Luke. I'm gonna wrap it up. Oh, it sounds like we're stopping.
Yeah, I think it'll be good.
If you will go ahead and wrap up your conversations, and then we'll come back together as a large group. Thank you all for being willing to be vulnerable and to share with one another those difficult experiences and how you experience God's love. And I encourage you that as we leave this time together, to continue these conversations with one another on Sunday, on times that you come together, to be an encouragement, to be a support to each other, to be that voice of God, to be that presence of God's Spirit, those hands and feet of Christ to one another in those difficult times. So receive now the benediction as we go forward. Leave this place and go into this night, this week, this month, choosing to be aware and open of God's love that is with you. God's love that is with you. God's love that is enough. And all God's people say, Amen.
I appreciate you all joining me in thanking Laura for her presentation, for her spirit, for her sharing with us tonight. I hope you're all as uplifted by her message as I am. And it doesn't have to stop now. I just wanted to mention that her book is available on the table by the door. The church has bought one for each family, so please take one. Please share it with someone who might need to hear its message. And again, let's thank Laura one more time.